When society breaks, most people think they have hours to react, but the truth is brutal. Your future is decided long before the panic, inside a silent 10-minute window where everything still looks normal while it quietly stops working. And if you misread that moment, the next 24 hours will not save you. Everyone talks about the first 24 or 72 hours of a crisis, and they should. Those hours shape the outcome. But almost no one talks about the moment that decides how you will live through them. The initial window when your mind is still clear. The system is only beginning to fail, and the people around you have not yet understood what is happening. Today we break down that window, not to create fear, but to create control. Because when society slips into chaos, most people act on instinct, but a small minority builds advantage. We will examine what happens inside the human mind during those first minutes, which mistakes turn a manageable disruption into a trap, and which immediate decisions raise your chances of staying safe before the wave of panic even forms. If you want clear, calm analysis without hype, stay with SafetyZone. Before you think about what to do, you need to understand what happens inside people the moment the system breaks. Because a collapse never starts with chaos. It starts with silence. That unnatural stillness when the power cuts, the street noise dulls, or your phone freezes, and your brain, instead of reacting, tries to reassure you. That silence is the real threat. Humans are built to pause before they move. It is an ancient survival reflex. And in those first minutes, most people slip into a mental fog, waiting for someone else to confirm what they are afraid to admit. They downplay, they rationalize, they delay, telling themselves it is temporary. But while they wait, the world around them is already recalibrating. Those 10 minutes create the only line that matters. The line between people who freeze and people who take initiative. The ones who freeze lose the window while the environment is still flexible. The ones who act use that window to secure position, gather information, and shape their next steps. If you do not recognize this mechanism, you get absorbed into the hesitation of the crowd, and it is inside that hesitation that the worst mistakes form. Not because the situation is impossible, but because your mind has not yet accepted that the situation has already changed. The first mistake is the one almost everyone makes. Doing nothing while telling themselves they are checking the situation. They refresh the phone, wait for an update, listen for a siren, ask a neighbor what they think, and in those harmless-looking seconds, the window of freedom shrinks. Waiting feels safe because it feels familiar. It is the mind clinging to routine when routine is already dead. But in a breakdown, the environment changes faster than your brain does. Roads that are clear now will lock up in minutes. Stores that are open now will slam their doors as soon as crowds form. Information that is available now will disappear the moment the grid overloads. The system is still fluid in the first moments, then it hardens into a maze of bottlenecks. And once that happens, you move when everyone else moves, which means you move too late. People who hesitate don't just lose time, they lose position. Your first task is not action, it is breaking the mental inertia that keeps you still. The moment you go from passive monitoring to deliberate movement, you exit the group that becomes trapped and enter the group that builds advantage. The second mistake is the inversion of paralysis, moving fast without knowing why. It happens in a flash. Someone hears a distant crash, sees a notification pop and vanish, feels the air shift with pressure, and their instinct takes over. They sprint toward the car, the store, a friend's house, anywhere that feels like action. But movement without intent is exposure, and in a collapsing environment, confusion is punished instantly. Every unnecessary step puts you inside someone's fear, someone's desperation, someone's panic path. Motion feels like you are doing something, but most of the time it is just adrenaline wearing the mask of initiative. In the first 10 minutes, there is only one reason to move: to secure a clean signal, a piece of filtered information that tells you whether you stay, prepare, or leave. One verified fact is more valuable than 10 impulsive reactions. If you step out before you know what you are trying to accomplish, the environment decides for you. And once the environment decides, You are already reacting instead of leading. In those first moments, clarity is more powerful than speed, because clarity keeps you outside the chaos while everyone else runs straight into it. The third mistake is trusting the crowd simply because it is not broken yet. In the first moments of a collapse, a crowd is not panic. It is a pressurized silence, a mass of people waiting for someone else to define the emotion. That silence is deceptive. It feels stable, but it is a surface tension that can snap from 1 second to the next. All it takes is a shout behind you, a door slamming, someone starting to run, a rumor whispered with enough fear to spread faster than truth. Stepping into a crowd at that moment is stepping into a current you cannot see. From the outside, it looks slow. From the inside, it decides your direction for you. Crowds amplify fear long before they amplify logic. And once the emotional wave forms, you lose control of speed, space, and choice. In the first 10 minutes, you avoid clusters of people, intersections, transit hubs, supermarkets, main roads, anywhere density rises, because those are the first points where coordination collapses and reaction takes over. A single surge can lock you in place. A single panic ripple can turn a harmless group into a stampede. And once the bodies close around you, your decisions disappear. The crowd does not protect you in a crisis. It rewires you. And when its mood flips, you flip with it, whether you wanted to or not. Your goal in the first 10 minutes is not to run, not to grab weapons, not to panic buy supplies. Those belong to the first hours of a crisis, not the first moments. In the opening window, you have only 3 priorities. Break the mental inertia that keeps most people frozen, secure 1 or 2 pieces of verified information that cut through the noise, and establish your initial position before the environment hardens around you. That position does not need to be dramatic. It can be as simple as locking down your home entry points, filling containers while water pressure still exists, checking the street from cover instead of stepping into it, or pulling your family into a single room so everyone is reachable. None of this is about completing a survival plan. It is about creating a margin while the rest of the city is still in denial. Collapses are decided by positioning long before they are decided by supplies. Because once the grid seizes and people realize what is happening, every second becomes competition. The first 10 minutes do not save your life on their own, but they determine whether you start the crisis with space to think, or whether you get swallowed when panic finally hits the majority. In that small window, clarity is leverage, and leverage becomes safety the moment the real collapse begins. The people who stay calm in real emergencies, soldiers, first responders, crisis teams, all run the same internal sequence, simple enough to execute under shock and fast enough to cut through adrenaline. 1. Where am I? Not in theory, but in the physical, immediate sense. What room, what street, what angle, what exits? 2. What is changing? Not what might change, but what is already shifting in sound, movement, light, behavior, the signals that tell you whether the situation is rising or stabilizing. 3. What can I control right now without guessing? A door, a water source, a piece of information, a position. This sequence breaks panic because panic is a collapse of orientation, and orientation is exactly what this restores. It turns a formless crisis into a structured problem, something with boundaries you can think inside instead of a fog that sweeps you away. The checklist is not about being fearless. It is about giving your mind a framework strong enough to keep fear from dictating your next move. By this point, you should have 3 elements locked in: your position, your information, and your first operational step. Now you turn them into action before the window closes. Close and secure every door and window so your home becomes a controlled zone instead of a target. Anyone can test. Bring your family into a single room so communication is instant and no one is wandering or guessing. Place a flashlight where your hand lands first in the dark, not where you hope to remember it later. Check every container that can hold water while pressure still exists. Evaluate your fuel level and decide whether mobility is an asset or a trap. Because in some crises, leaving early is freedom and leaving late is exposure. Then choose deliberately whether you hold your position or move toward phase 2. Not because you feel pressure, but because you understand the timeline. None of these actions is dramatic. None feels like heroics. And that is exactly why most people postpone them until there is noise in the street and panic in the air. In the first 10 minutes, these steps are force multipliers, tiny decisions that expand your margin while everyone else is still frozen. Done later, they are just reactions swallowed by the chaos. The advantage you build now is quiet and invisible, but when the rest of the city finally realizes what is happening, you will already be positioned, already prepared, already ahead, because you acted when the environment still gave you space to move. A collapse does not begin when the lights die or the streets erupt. It begins the moment people stop understanding what they are looking at. The first minutes are not about strength, gear, or stockpiles. They are about clarity, the kind of clarity that separates the people who freeze from the people who move with intention. If you control your mind in that window, the hours that follow shift in your favor. If you hesitate, the environment makes the choices for you. Every major crisis, from blackouts to civil unrest to sudden systemic shocks, follows the same sequence: confusion first, reaction second, understanding last. Your advantage is learning to flip that order: understand first, act second. Never wait for a city to confirm what it cannot explain. Survival is not about fear, it is about timing, and the earliest minutes shape everything that comes after. If you want analysis that sharpens your judgment instead of adding noise, stay with SafetyZone. And now answer this. In your own first 10 minutes, what is the one decision you know you would take before the rest of the crowd wakes up?